You know, we had a good thing going there for a while. I was actually uploading pretty regularly for a few weeks, and then here I go, winding up dropping off for a month again. Hello again, everybody. Glad that you are watching this video if you are, and I'd like to thank everyone that decided to stick with the channel after that last video being a smidge on the political side. I hope you all didn't mind. Well, not the last video, because the last video was that PSO video that no one bothered to watch, but I can't blame them. That's sort of just informative and answering a specific question. I can't believe I actually spent a day making a video just to answer some guy in Max's Twitch chat's question in better detail. But that's what we do here on Game Babble. We do the absolute stupidest and most absurd thing. But I would like to ask if the video discussing the game's sense and video game censorship, if that bothered anyone, if you'd like to see more videos, if you'll let it slide. Believe it or not, that was actually the first time I ever checked my Social Blade statistics, because I was kind of worried after that. And I did lose 3 subscribers that day, so clearly I posted cringe. But the next 2 days I gained them back. But I don't care about subscribers. I don't care who's following me. I care who's watching, because I understand not subscribing to every single person that you actually watch and stuff. I get that. I care about you guys, so please let me know if that video bothered you. And a part of that is because, again, I do want to try and keep politics out of things as much as possible, because I know that just makes things really awkward. Politics are the most volatile thing, and it kind of hurts when you're watching your favorite entertainer and then all of a sudden, their politics take this bizarre swerve, and you feel kind of bad because you feel like they think you're an idiot or something, which I absolutely don't, no matter what your political opinion is, because I admit I don't know anything. I would argue that most people don't, due to the sheer amount of very biased information on every single possible side and all of the points in between. Oh, egad, I never realized how difficult it was to figure out what the truth is. I'm convinced the truth doesn't even exist anymore. So, if you think I'm completely off base, I can't blame you. But I would actually like to discuss some other things on the topic of video game censorship and stuff. Because believe it or not, that's a point of particular concern for me that I've been following for literal decades. And there's a lot of just people not seeing the forest through the trees. Like, they're looking at each individual instance on their own and going, oh, this isn't such a big deal. And I'm like, no, I'm seeing the same complaints being used over and over and over again. I'm seeing some disturbing patterns. There's things to be concerned about here that I don't think are being discussed. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a situation where you've got one group of people that are overwhelmingly clickbaity and sensationalist, and another group that are overwhelmingly nothing matters-y. Overwhelmingly, nah, it's fine, it's cool, it's like, they're almost too much cope. I can't cope with all the cope, okay? It's like, there's a problem here, and we need to discuss it, and I don't think we are. If nothing else, I've strongly considered, one, doing a video on why low-budget Japanese titty games are important to me. That sounds so stupid, but that's why I kind of want to tackle that topic, because I constantly just get told, LOL, just go watch porn. It's like, no, it's not about that. You don't get it. It's not about just seeing titties, okay? I mean, the short answer is porn doesn't have air combos, but the long answer is actually quite multi-layered. But, so I kind of want to do that. I think a video actually covering all of the whole Sony censorship thing would be good, because I've heard a lot of people who don't think that's a real thing, or think it's super minor, or like, when has censorship ever affected gameplay or stuff like that, and I'm like, there's instances. It's just that you have to be into really, really weird Japanese games in order to notice it. Your average video game is not affected by this. It's only these really bizarre niche games that I happen to be interested in that tend to attract the ire of people and tend to get censored. And it's really frustrating because I see a lot of people just not even covering that. If nothing else, one thing that I think I need to do, I've wanted to do, just add this to the laundry list of videos I'm not doing that I want to do. But one that I've been meaning to do for quite a while is actually talk about female characters in video games, because that wound up accidentally being my area of expertise. And I've wanted to talk about that for literal years, and so many people told me it was a bad idea and that I didn't know what I was doing, and basically that I couldn't speak because I'm a dude, number one, and number two, because I like Japanese titty games. And as such, you can't really talk about women in video games without completely discrediting yourself. And it's like, after years of trying to figure it out, it's like, the problem was that I was approaching it from the standpoint of trying to convince people that video games are actually a lot more progressive than people think, when in reality, I should have just approached it from a standpoint of information, of just, here's the history, do what you want with it, rather than trying to say much of anything about it. I'd still like to go in a little more detail on some things, but yeah, I think that's a thing to discuss. And the reason why it's been such an area of expertise for me is because when I was a kid, I might have mentioned this story, but when I was a kid, my mother worked at a fish store that was a fish hatchery, actually, that was in the same plaza as a video rental store. And so every week, me and my sister each got to rent one thing. I would rent a video game, my sister would rent an anime. But I realized, if I could find a video game with a female lead, I could convince my sister to rent that. And since we'd be sharing the systems, I'd have 2 games to play that week instead of just 1. So I actually hunted them down. And that's how I got into the Valis series and became a huge fan of that. That's how I know El Viento and Alicia Dragoon. A lot of Sega Genesis games, really. There were significantly more on Genesis than Super Nintendo, and that stood out really hard because my sister was kind of a Nintendo diehard and did not like the Sega Genesis at all, and yet the Genesis wound up having more games with female leads than the Super Nintendo did. It was just a weird thing, which might have something to do with Nintendo's own guidelines. But even still, we found some on Super Nintendo. We definitely played Kendo Rage. We're familiar with these games. They're a huge part of my childhood. And as such, in 1996, when Tomb Raider came out and everyone was making such a big deal about Lara Croft, me and my sister are just sitting there going, what's the big deal? We don't, what? I don't get it. Why is everyone making a big deal out of this character? She's doing literally nothing new. And if you want to know the exact point where the conversation went off the rails, it was right there. And it's frustrating because a lot of people think that there were no female characters in video games for a really long time, or they were practically non-existent. And I'm like, no, this is sort of another one of those both sides things, because you've got one side saying, there have never been women in video games, and that's sexist, and we need to fix it. And then you have another side going, video games have always been devoid of women because men are the people who most play them, and games with female characters don't sell, which I can scientifically disprove. That is some stone cold bullshit right there. That's perpetuated by bad game journalism. Bad and arrogant game journalism. But yeah, and I remember having a conversation with some people, and I was like, and at one point I was like, actually, there were well over 100 games with female playable characters before Lara Croft, and someone was like, I bet you couldn't even name one, and I was like, well, lucky for me, I've made a list. I've made a list and I've been counting. I sent it to them, they were like, oh. And they actually got really interesting, because someone decided to take my list of playable female characters in video games before Lara Croft and compare it against a certain someone else's list of damsels in distress. And we found almost even numbers of female playable characters and damsels in distress every year. There was one year where there were actually more playable characters than damsels in distress. Now, interesting thing about that, this doesn't actually prove anything. My list was not a complete and definitive list of female playable characters, and their list was not a complete and definitive list of damsels in distress. But the fact that we wound up with nearly identical numbers kind of shows the power of confirmation bias, you know? Very interesting. If I ever do finally get off my butt and discuss this conversation, it would be, I want to make it a three-parter, and it would be of escalating politicality, as it were. Because episode 1 would just be raw, here's a bunch of interesting female characters in chronological order that predate Lara Croft, trying to be as non-political as possible, while still talking about some of the cooler and more interesting ones. Like, Typhoon Gal was a nothing game, but oh my gosh, is it a fantastic example of visual storytelling in old video games. And I think the game's called Body Slam Wrestling in America. It's Dump Matsumoto in Japan. The fact that in, like, 1986, there was an all-women's wrestling game that came to America, and more than that, it's based on a large Japanese heel wrestler. Dump Matsumoto is a heel, and she's not an attractive heel, yo. She is a large lady, and yet she's the star. The game was based on her. And I find that interesting. Now, mind you, I find that game almost completely unplayable. You lose almost instantaneously, but still. And then you have the even more interesting thing, which are the games which originally had female leads and then they removed them for the US release, like that game. They did that with Body Slam Wrestling. They did that with Ninja Princess. They did that with Legendary Wings. It's an interesting topic there, but so that's what I would want episode 1 to be. Episode 2 would be called The Unimportance of Lara Croft, with un in parentheses, all Evangelion style, wherein I discuss how weird it is that Lara Croft was so popular, but then at the end I want to swerve it around. Because after looking into it, I realized that she was actually important to a lot of people. That she was a milestone in gaming, just not for the reasons why people think. And yeah, she was important to some people, and so as much as I want to call a bunch of folks idiots for acting like Lara Croft was a big deal, and in the end she really was, just for really weird reasons. And then the third, the one that would be the most controversial, and I'm almost a little hesitant to do, but I've got years of built-up stuff, would be where did the conversation go wrong? And there's just so much misinformation and so much that people got wrong. And I don't want to name any names, but, yeah. No, everyone's an idiot. Most of the blame I would put on really, really, really bad game journalism. I've always had a beef with game journalists. It's the whole reason I started this channel, in fact. Because I have had a beef with bad game journalism since Game Fan, okay? The good old days? Yeah, no, it was still garbage back then. Oh my gosh, I was constantly screaming about how stupid, like, Sean Baby's dumb joke sections were. There was so much stupid in Game Fan. It's just that the kind of stupid changed. If you want to know what the problem with old game journalism was? Back when you weren't paying attention and you thought it was all good, it was the fact that everyone wanted to be a comedian. Everyone wanted to be funny. Everyone wanted to dump on a game because that was fun. And it would never be one of the big games. Oh, no. The big games that are, part of big franchises, no, those are sacred cows. You don't get to touch them. What you do is you find the weirdest, most obscure, most pointless game that no one cares about from some small company that hasn't paid your your magazine a single penny to cover their game, and that's the one you make a complete and utter mockery of. And I actually remember kind of being that guy. I remember reading Official Dreamcast magazine and seeking out, like, the bad reviews, where they're just completely dumping on these games for being terrible, except that there were a couple times where I actually played the games first, and I realized, wait a second, these games are actually awesome, and these people are complete idiots who don't know how to play these games. This wasn't just a matter of, oh, I like this game and this person hates it. It's one of those, you literally do not understand the mechanics of this game, or you're approaching it from the wrong angle. A lot of dumb stuff. And yeah, so that's what was wrong with the old game journalism before everything got stupid and political and I started screaming. So I am wondering what you guys think. I also admit that yes, the Mock Girl episode has weirdly I've just not been in the mood to record it. And as usual, I've got a million ideas for episodes, and I'm not doing any of them, which I need to fix. I also need to go and set up a thing. I need to set up a lot of things. I don't know, things are kind of busy around here, as usual. Just, when I'm going to get home from work, I'm kind of tired. There's a lot of cleaning I've been trying to do. And of course, I'm getting distracted by all of these games that have dumb dailies that I'm trying to complete. I've been getting back into PSO2, as you might have seen from that previous video, having a good time with that. Genshin Impact has been on the back burner for a hot minute. Still enjoy that game. Honestly, still haven't actually gotten around to playing Sense. I'm going to be honest with y'all, when I played that demo of Sense for the background footage, I think that game might not be very good. I still defend its right to exist, but I did not like that demo. One day I need to sit down and stream it. Ooh, but I got Ys 9, and I need to get more into that, because Ys 8 was incredible. Thus far, Ys 9 isn't impressing me as much as Ys 8, and I think a lot of that's just the fact that it's not as colorful. But it does still seem fast and fun, and I want to see what kind of combos we can put out. Someone did make a Ys 8 combo video. I highly recommend looking up Ys 8 combos. Because, yeah, friend of the show, Horseplay, brought up a good point about action RPGs, where he's like, why aren't action RPGs just good action games? Like, why does being an RPG let you make a bad action game and it's okay because it's an action RPG? And it's like, hey, you got kind of a point. Ys 8 and 9 are definitely the counterpoint to that. Those are good action games. Those are very good action games. Horseplay, if you're listening to this, I'm going to put in a special recommendation for Ys 8. You might want to look into that one, although you might also want to just, save up for a computer. New Genesis is coming, and I'm very excited. Very excited for New Genesis. I'm very excited. I wish PSO2 was more clear. You know what? I've also been spending some time trying to figure out what it is that PSO2 is missing that PSO1 had. Because the game's fun. I love playing PSO2. I even like its more arcadey nature. I love when you're just in the multi-party area and people are just coming in and out and activating PSE bursts and causing bosses to spawn in. That is such a blast. The combat is great. Those moments are great. But something's missing, and I finally figured it out. Phantasy Star Online #1 actually did something that I feel no other online game at all has done. And that's the fact that it provides a complete adventure. Like, it's very basic and straightforward, but you can just log in and do forest, cave, mines, ruins, end boss. You can do all that in a single sitting. It takes generally a little over 5 hours to actually pull that off, but you can pull it off. And that was what me and one of my friends did, like, every couple of weekends. We'd just be like, oh, we should play some Phantasy Star Online. What should we do? I don't know. How about we just do a full game run? And we would just spend just late into the night on Saturday. We would go from, like, I don't know, about 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. just playing PSO and going from the forest to the ruins, let everyone know what we're doing, do a full campaign. There'd be pauses where we'd eat, we'd talk, people would use the restroom, and that was just such a good experience. And I realized that was the thing that made PSO special. No other game has pulled that off. Like, Diablo is a lot like PSO, but it doesn't have that. Obviously, Monster Hunter doesn't have that. Obviously, the future Phantasy Star Online games don't have that. And that's what's missing. And that's what I'm sure New Genesis will not be bringing back. But that was the thing that made PSO special, I'm realizing. Because thanks to the atmosphere and the visuals and everything, it looked like a full-fledged adventure. It had a distinctive visual style. The characters had a certain look. It did a very good job of making you feel like a member of an adventuring party in a classic console RPG, specifically Phantasy Star 2. I always felt the visuals for Phantasy Star Online were the closest to Phantasy Star 2, and, you know, and I just always loved that. I'd always think about what that meant if this was a traditional RPG and my character was a party member and what would be going on, and just running through those hallways with 3 other friends beating up monsters. It was just, it felt so right. And the fact that you could have this complete adventure from the forests to the ruins with a big flashy end boss. It didn't even matter that there was pretty much no ending. It's just, hey, congratulations, here's your characters posing. It was the fact that it really felt like a full adventure. A nice, a short but sweet one, like the perfect length. And that's what's missing. Because PSO 2 was designed for the Vita. You know, batteries are only going to last so long. It's designed so that way it's quick pick up and play arcadey fun. And I like that about it. I would never want that removed. But if I could call up Sega and go, here's what you need to add, it would be some kind of lengthy multiplayer campaign quest you could go on. Something you could sink your teeth into. And I think a lot of it was very much held back by PSO 2 being essentially a Vita game. Because yes, I know it came out on PC first, but Vita was the first target console, or system rather. It was designed for the Vita. I remember this because I was like, oh geez, I have to buy a Vita now? So they made a lot of accommodations, I think, for the Vita, and they supported the Vita all the way up until very recently. And looking at the kind of small size of the environments, I think all of that makes a lot of sense. It does feel like a Vita game. And yeah, it's just weird. It's just, I don't know, it's just weird. That was the thing, though, that PSO 1 was, had that PSO 2 is missing, I think. Just, you know, lots of navel-gazing, just thinking about that. Just, thinking all about that. What other, oh, geez, Balan Wonderworld. I almost want to make a video on that, even though everyone else has, like, I want to do a more summarized version of that. You know what's really sad? Balan Wonderworld reminds me of a bootleg NES game about rainbow-colored kangaroos called Wonder Rabbit. If you've never played Wonder Rabbit, you might not know. But, it's a lot like Balan Wonderworld, which I'm having the hardest time saying. I keep wanting to say Balan Wonderland because, you know, it goes. But yeah, if you haven't heard, Balan Wonderworld is the new game from Yuji Naka, and it looked really cool, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's like Knights, but not Knights, it's like Billy Hatcher, but not, and it's gonna be a super cool platform, and it represents everything people want to support. We haven't had a good new IP in a while. We haven't had a good new 3D platformer, something bright and colorful, something with that old Sega spark to it. You know, something with a lot of personality. And what's more, like, Square Enix is putting it out, and it'd be nice to see Square Enix branch out and do some more interesting and adventurous things. There's so much about it that people want to support. When I streamed today, but then the game came out, or the demo came out, and people played it, they're like, oh, please, please, please delay this. No one likes this game. Please delay this game. And I downloaded the Switch version of the demo, which is the worst, and, yeah. Please delay this game by, like, a year. because this has huge problems. And it's really sad, too, because people are looking at this, they're all speculating. I'm like, how many of you played Rodea the Sky Soldier on Wii? Because Rodea the Sky Soldier on Wii is a good Knights game. That's Knights meets Sonic Adventure. It's actually good. All the other versions are hot garbage, but the Wii version, that is a pack-in bonus for the first print run of the Wii U release. Oh, what a troubled history behind that game. But the Wii version of Rodea the Sky Soldier is a really, really, like, it's got some flaws, mostly with how camera control works, but it's a brilliant concept. It's actually unique. It's actually fun. It very much has that Sega spark. It feels like a Lost Dreamcast game, but a little bit better. It's very nice. But Balan Wonderworld, oh, what a mistake. Okay, I'm gonna summarize what's wrong with this game. So, Yuji Naka is thinking back to Sonic, and he's thinking back to the one-button gameplay, where he's like, I want every action to be one button. Now, that worked in Sonic the Hedgehog because it was 2D side-scrolling. So you could press down and A and up and A and different directions with A to modify what it does. You don't get that in Balan Wonderworld because, of course, up, down, left, and right moves you in those directions. So you only have the one button. All buttons just do the action. And that action is usually jump, but you then get these power-up suits, of which there's supposed to be a bunch, and each one has their own ability. And you get like this Tornado Wolf, and it'll do this spinning attack while jumping. Okay, fine. But then you get this Dragon, and it breathes fire, but it can't jump. And you could use L and R to switch between suits, but switching takes way, way too long. And this is a problem. The game needs two buttons. If you had a jump button and an action button, that would fix a huge chunk of the game. But no, you just have an action button. So when you're using certain power-ups, you can't jump. And this ruins the game design because Yuji Naka knew, oh hey, we can't have too much jumping in this game because not all suits can jump. And at the same time, oh hey, we can't have too many enemies in this game because not all suits can attack. So you have a platformer with very little platforming and very little attacking, and it's a walking simulator. Balan Wonderland is not a platformer, it's a walking sim, and not a very good one. And I see what he was going for. He wanted to make these beautiful, surreal dreamscapes with a bunch of cool things going on, and you want to just run around them and explore them. But they're not big and open enough, they're not full of enough wonder, they're not really long enough, although sometimes they feel too long due to the fact that your character's run speed is too low. They're just empty. From what I played of the demo, and you want to start with your best foot forward, the demo was just empty. There were like maybe 10 enemies total in the entire demo. Due to the fact that combat is, and here's one of the other problems, because certain suits attack and certain suits jump, when all I have are jumping suits, you attack by jumping, but it's really unclear what jump counts as an attack and what jump is just a jump, because you can't just universally land on enemies' heads. And for the record, jumping on enemies' heads in 3D is very hard to pull off. This was something Mario knew in Mario 64, and that's why Mario can punch and kick in that game. Heck, Mario Galaxy further expands on that by letting you do a spin attack, but if you actually do successfully jump on an enemy's head, it gets you a coin that recovers your health, adding a risk-reward system, and I was like, oh, that's really clever. They're acknowledging the fact that jumping on enemies' heads is very difficult, and rewarding players who can actually pull it off. Meanwhile, Super Mario 3D Land just pelts you with power-ups in order to make hitting enemies easier, because again, jumping on their heads is tricky. Not impossible. Don't say, oh, Gel can't jump on their heads. No, I can jump on their heads. It's just trickier than it should be. It's easier to jump on an enemy's head in 2D than it is in 3D, and it also feels better and is more satisfying. But honestly, it looks like you can't even jump on enemies' heads if you don't have a suit in Balan Wonderworld. And yeah, it made the boss fight super awkward, because I'm like, how do I hit you? What am I supposed to do? any combat was awkward. All the platforming is awkward. There's no ledge grabbing. It's all just awkward. It's very weird. Like, there's a part of me that wants to go, oh, well, with a little bit of polish, if we just put some time in, no, this needs another year. This needs another year. This game is bad. What I played of that game was bad. And I know I'm playing the Switch version, which, whoa. The graphics are terrible, the resolution is low, the frame rate is not good, lots of frame rate issues. Switch version, not good. By any stretch of the imagination. But I play this game and it's like, no, this is legitimately not good. Because there's almost no game here. It's just, woo, look at this crazy environment you can run around in. Yo, find the thing to move on and do the thing. It's like, no, I'm not feeling this. It feels empty. It feels lifeless. It feels incredibly basic. Like, it's not good. I feel bad about saying that, but, because I think everyone does, actually. Because when you look at it head on, Balan Wonderworld looks like a game a lot of people really want. They want to support this, but they don't want to because the game is garbage. It's just a bad game. It's very weird. And it comes out in like 2 months, so there's no salvaging this. It's not like, oh, well, the final product will be better. No, it's not. It's not going to be better. I would be shocked. Because step 1 is add a jump button, and step 2 is redesign all the stages for a jump button. It needs more platforming and more enemies. Like, all the stages are going to need to be redesigned. Because the stages are very clearly designed around the fact that you can only run around and do some mysterious action. It's garbage. And why does suit switching take so long? Why is the movement so slow? Like, it feels like Wonder Rabbit. There is a bootleg NES game called Wonder Rabbit, where you could press a button to bring up a menu and switch between like 7 different colored kangaroos, and then each one has one thing it can do. So when you switch to the punching kangaroo, you can't jump anymore, it just punches. You need to switch to like the green jumping kangaroo to jump, and you switch to like the blue swimming kangaroo to swim. And so you have this platformer where you're constantly juggling between different kinds of kangaroos in order to jump and navigate the environment. It's terrible, and that's kind of what Balan Wonderworld is. It's not good. It's not good. It's a bit of a problem. That's about where I'm at. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to discuss. Mostly, I just want to apologize for the lack of uploads and the video. The slightly political video. I wanted to talk to you about that and see what everyone thought about my potential other plans on the topic of video game censorship and the like. It's very interesting. Like, I feel like a lot of people don't really know all of what's going on. And yeah. Anyway. As usual, I've got a million ideas in my head. One I really need to get on after a number of different disturbing conversations is a discussion and defense of turn-based RPGs. Because I am seeing more and more people say that turn-based RPGs are an outdated concept that has no place in 2021. Like, there shouldn't be any turn-based RPGs on the PS5, and as someone who knows a lot of people whose favorite genre is turn-based RPGs, a lot of people who buy consoles based on which one has the best turn-based JRPGs, I'm very opposed to that. And having said that, they bring up a lot of good points. There are some severe flaws with the standardized way that turn-based combat is handled, but that's not the fault of turn-based combat. That's just a lot of our traditional things aren't good. Like, honestly, the active time battle system is bad. It just flat out is. That's really awkward to say because I'm saying that the battle system for Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, and Final Fantasy VII is kind of bad, and it actually kind of is. Those games are not carried by their battle system. They're carried by their phenomenal writing, beautiful music, fantastic visuals, and a passable battle system that's all right and does some cool things. You know, that, which I acknowledge, you know, espers and materia and team-up attacks, those are all really cool, and I like them, but those are not good turn-based combat systems. The ATB system it has issues. It makes you wait more, not less. It's a huge backfire. It's like a Wiimote. So I kind of want to do that, but ooh, honestly, I need to clean up this damn room more because I've been relying too much on emulators. I'd like to get my real hardware into a better space and hook it up, because I think I almost need my PS3 hooked up to pull that off. I need gameplay footage of good turn-based battle systems to show people, like, how cool and crazy it can get. And on that note, that also means that I need to get back on figuring out Trials of Cold Steel, or Trails of Cold Steel, and really and actually sit down with Octopath Traveler and actually understand how the fuck Saga Scarlet Grace works. There's a number of turn-based combat systems I need to explore more. Because, like, the long and short of it is that, like, to summarize it, the problem with turn-based combat is that the active time battle system isn't very good because it forces you to wait for your turn, whereas a hard turn-based system gets you your turn much faster. You're not waiting anywhere near as long, especially when it's well handled. Like, the enemy turn will be over in an instant, and then you're back to issuing commands. And number two, the standardized fight command is a fucking issue. Like, the fact that there's just this one fight command, because it's the one thing you can do that doesn't cost you anything. So when you run into random no-name enemies, you just spam the fight command, and you win. And RPGs turn into running around in circles spamming the fight command on random mobs until your numbers are so high that you can just spam the fight command on bigger enemies. It's like, yeah, that's not what it should be. Turn-based combat should be like little miniature strategy games, like strategy games but faster, or like card games. There needs to be some kind of thought and choice and strategy to it. Because that's the question. The question is, what's the point of turn-based combat? Why not make it action? And the point of turn-based combat is that you can take your time to strategize, and you can command a full party. It's very hard to command a full party in real time, in an action battle system. So the advantage of turn-based is the ability to strategize and having a full party. And games need to take advantage of that. They need to require more thought and be a bit more strategic in order to justify the fact that they're not action combat systems. And I do believe there's plenty of games out there that pull this off, but they're not all that popular or well-known, weirdly enough. But yeah, that about covers it. Thank you for listening to me. I'm gonna try to get out another video as soon as I can. Catch y'all later. Thank you for listening. See ya.